would like to call to order the April 22nd, 2019 Lake Washington School Board meeting. Please let the record reflect that all board members are present except for Eric LaLiberty, who is excused. So for the first action tonight, I'll entertain a motion to approve the April 22nd agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Carlson and seconded by Director Stewart that we approve the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So tonight, we will go into our host schools. So Dr. Staben, will you have the pleasure of introducing them?
I do have the pleasure of introducing our principal, and I will let her introduce her associate principal. Heather Frazier is our principal at Lakeview Elementary School. And before we get started with Heather's presentation, we're going to have a short video on Lakeview Elementary. And I have to say, this was the first video that we've done this year where I truly believe the children thought I was a celebrity. And I think they thought I was like a famous newscaster because it became very popular on the playground to speak with me. So you'll see just a little bit of that in our video, but we had a lot of fun.
You wrote a couple of stories. Would you like to come read some of your stories?
We have about 560 students at Lakeview.
Okay, the first one is everyone makes mistakes.
Many of our students are in the achieving and overachieving on the SBA.
Leopards are nocturnal animals, so they hunt at night.
I'm proud of being a part of work that was already in place. So our teachers and parents already recognized that there's an achievement gap, and they were putting resources, time and talent and treasure to help to bridge that gap.
If you feel confident, and you just go for it.
And so I'm excited that they have the willingness to be courageous, looking at our own work, saying, you know what, we're not doing quite the right thing, and being willing to continue on the journey. So we have an equity team, and that will keep growing.
If I took my grocery list and made it look like a poem, would that be a poem?
Diversity in books is huge right now, or equity. I do a lot of reading in Hornbook and School Library Journal, and the focus these days is really more on equity. And it's great for kids because, like you say, Lakeview has a very diverse population, and it's really great to see those kids who maybe have not been represented in books in the past, see that there's a book with Spanish language references, or we've got books from Pakistan and different countries in Africa, Nigeria. It's really great to see kids being represented and just see the look on their face when they realize that they're part of the equation.
There you go.
We go.
Why do you think field trips are a good thing for kids?
Because you just get to go and just visit cool places.
Where did you go on your big trip today?
I went to Mopop Museum.
I really liked the drums in the music room.
Okay, did you get to try them out? Mm-hmm. What was your favorite thing that you saw today?
My favorite thing was like the instrument.
Oh, what kind of instruments were they?
Like guitars, drums, and a lot of instruments that it can vibrate.
You'll see now there are headphones plugged into each of your netbooks.
One of my passions is using technology and leveraging that to break down barriers.
Erase the numbers and then retype in those numbers.
During the time that I've come to Lakeview, we've started to do some work on that, and one of my pet things has actually happened, in that we have computers for checkout with hotspots, so all of our children really can access our curriculum.
We're going to try something.
So Dreambox isn't just something for kids who have access, we all have it.
Recess time is a busy time during the day, busy place.
We've done a little bit of an add-on during this year. So we added a gaga ball pit, and you can hear lots of screaming. We worked with the district, said, you know what, the most important thing to us is to improve safety here. And that really meant regrading this surface area, which is the big project to be completed this summer. And that our parents are celebrating that and partnering, and they're the ones who are going to do the heavy lift on what kind of equipment. So students right now are voting for their favorite pieces.
My favorite thing is to do that monkey bar. My favorite thing is actually The blue is the going thing, the climber, so I could climb up and like high things and down things. I like spinning things. I like to slide.
Favorite thing about Lakeview Elementary Playground?
Science.
Science. I love that. Science on the playground.
As kids come and go, they see a really important message. What is that message that now greets them? Where will you be going to college? At the beginning, it was just this oddity that I'd put up. And then the teachers would come to me and say, oh, I would like to add a little bit. And so now all of the teachers have put up their own pennants from their alma maters, and kids are asking. And it helps us remember as instructors and leaders to make sure that they really have the future that we want them to have. And so they should be considering that. They don't have to choose it, but it's not our job to limit them. We want them to have all of those options available to them.
We had to have an agreement about whether or not there would be sound. And clearly, I'm responsive to my associate principal, Trent Negebauer, who's like, cut the sound. So good evening, members of the school board and Superintendent Dr. Stavum. Tonight, I am proud to share with you a snapshot of our remarkable Lakeview Elementary School. This is my second year as principal at Lakeview. And I am honored to be part of this community characterized by compassion and action, building future leaders through music, technology, and service to others. By building on our strengths, we are taking intentional steps to make our vision come true. Together, we empower and inspire each student to thrive and fulfill their unique potential. Our campus is a vibrant place for learning for 544 students who live by the motto, work hard, be kind, be safe. In this decade, we have seen an increase in English language learners from 3% to 14% of our students. We have become richer because of our increasingly diverse community, and this year we have 32 languages spoken. As the cost of living in our neighborhood increases and affordable housing is less available, some of our families are moving away. We have seen a decline in the number of students and families with low income, change from 16% now down to 10%. But working in partnership with our PTSA and business community, we meet the needs of our families. We provide after-school snack, before school and during school snacks. We pay in full reduced lunch fees. Students also receive weekend pantry packs. We have a Winter Wishes program for students and their families. We have school supplies provided, Operation School Bell, scholarships for all school events, services to connect families to social service organizations, and emergency housing vouchers for immediate needs. We face the challenge of differentiating instruction along a wide continuum, and we are proud of our students' growth and achievement. Our 2017-18 end-of-year data shows a range of 86 to 90% of primary students at or above benchmark on the DIBELS. And our current 2019 data indicates a positive trend. It looks like 90% above for all primary students. For those students not yet at benchmark, we provide safety net, special education, and do a double dip in small group reteaching. We celebrate that more than half of our students consistently perform above standard, and 75% or more are at standard or above. But we focus on meeting the needs of every student and creating clear to high growth for all. For those students not yet at standard, our data revealed long-standing patterns of below standard achievement connected to 4 factors: economic standing, race, language acquisition, and learning differences. Lakeview is facing a history of disproportionality in our special education program. 12% of the Lakeview population is Hispanic Latino, but those students make up 30% of our students in special education. We recognize that insufficient Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions contribute to this problem. We have implemented a student support team. It's a Tier 2 intervention made up of representative teachers from each grade level who have developed expertise in social emotional, behavior, and academics. They've added resources from our special education team. We also have a transparent decision-making process implemented at the guidance team and a variety of other professional learning for staff. In 2018-19, we have qualified just 5 new students for special education, and of those students, 30% are white, 20% are Asian. Given the small size of the sample, this is a close match to our overall demographic. In response to our data showing lower learning outcomes for students acquiring English, we have focused on building our collective and individual capacity to meet the needs of our English learning students. This is our 2nd year building our instructional knowledge and implementation of SIOP and culturally responsive teaching strategies. We have also been learning about our students' social, emotional needs through professional development in adverse childhood education experiences and piloting PBIS and math as part of our MTSS partnership with the district. We set a SIP achievement gap goal around our English language learners. Our goal this year is to have English language learners improve from 28% of EL students to 36% of EL students in grades through 5 at or above standard in math. We are currently on track to exceed our goal. Using report card data, 67% of our EL students in grades 3 through 5 are approaching or currently at standard in math. We took a closer look at our student growth data. When looking at math, the students in the N group, students receiving neither English language or special education support, have half as many students with low growth compared to students receiving English language or special education. That's the Y group. And when looking at ELA, students receiving neither EL or SPED have nearly twice the high growth of students receiving either EL or special education. Our staff values collaboration and they share a strong interest in co-teaching and supporting students together. We recognize that many of our at-risk students did not truly have access to core curriculum due to competing service delivery and scheduling structures. We made a commitment to follow a daily schedule with staggered instructional blocks that guarantees access to core curriculum for every student. All the students are in their classroom for new learning, and that is the lighter colored sections in each of the academic blocks. And then they receive targeted instruction during WIN, or What I Need Now. And that takes the form of independent practice, some co-teaching, push-in or pull-out instruction provided by Safety Net, ELL, or special education. And that's for K through 5. And then instruction from special education is finally aligned with the standards and the general ed curriculum. And that creates that cohesive instructional experience for students. We also butted specialist time up against recess to create a 1-hour block for a teacher collaboration. For grade level teams larger than 3, we split the recess so that half of the grade level would have recess followed by specialist, and the other half of the grade level would have the reverse. These decisions have resulted in an additional 1-hour block daily for teacher collaboration, another known positive impact on student learning. We know technology affords our students at all levels to achieve high rates of growth. So first, we phased out our use of competing math software programs and are in our second year as a pilot school for Dreambox adaptive differentiated math software. This year, our students have already completed 78,586, maybe 87 by tonight, lessons, and students averaged 17.6 standards of proficiency. Because students with 55 minutes a week or more using Dreambox had higher student growth percentiles on the Math SBA, we decided to increase opportunities for students to get that practice. We provided students in 2nd through 5th grade a before-school math club tutored by grade-level teachers, and that meets twice a week. And then once a week, we have a Dreambox lab, also before school. But there were still some students who did not have computer access at home and for whom the arrival at school in the morning was not a good fit. So we responded with a grant, providing students a Surface Go with hotspot to extend learning at home. And we are piloting math assessment software as part of our MTSS work in an effort to find an effective tool for assessment, progress monitoring, and identification of appropriate interventions. But technology is also key to making students future ready, developing scientific and mathematical thinking. And I'll let Trent share that.
All right. So having meaningful experiences with science and technology are vital to create students that are future ready. It will be important with the increase of jobs in STEM-related fields, but also in our students' immediate future when they make choices in middle school about electives. Access to these experiences at the elementary level are part of our discussion around equity for a couple of reasons. First, lack of exposure to technology and computer science creates opportunity and interest gaps. Families that have time and the financial means are able to access many enrichment programs for students outside of school. Students without these experiences are far less likely to choose STEM-related classes later in life. Second, we know that student perceptions about science and technology are formed at an early age. Studies show a significant gap between boys and girls regarding confidence in science and technology fields. This starts happening at the elementary level and is evident when girls begin to self-select out of STEM classes started in middle school. This holds true for the Lake Washington School District, where boys sign up for STEM-related electives at much higher percentages than girls. Over the last 2 years, Lakeview has started to create additional opportunities for all students to become excited about science and computational thinking. We held a series of STEM nights for families typically underrepresented in STEM fields, girls and students of color. We have begun to change the way we plan our school-wide science fairs, creating more opportunities to explore engineering and coding-based projects. Last year, a group of teachers at Lakeview volunteered many hours of their time to take an online course about teaching computational thinking at the elementary level. These teachers are now leaders in the building and just led a professional development session based on part of what they learned in the course. Lastly, we have started a multi-year project with the creation of a digital clubhouse. The digital clubhouse will have a wide variety of technology tools and devices, including some selected by the computational thinking teacher cohort. The digital clubhouse will be available for teachers to use with their students during the school day to learn additional skills in engineering and computational thinking. The digital clubhouse will also be available some days as an alternative to recess. We believe providing access and opportunity through these initiatives will lead to greater interest among all demographic groups, which hopefully will lead to more underrepresented students self-selecting into STEM-based electives in middle school and beyond. At Lakeview, we believe everybody can be a leader every day. At the start of each year, we talk about the definition of leadership with our 5th graders in something called everyday leadership. It's based off a TED Talk by the same name. The idea is that even small actions can make big impacts. Every 5th grader at Lakeview is on a leadership team. The teams all serve different functions at the school. 5th graders lead the morning announcements, MC the assemblies, welcome guest teachers and superintendents, give tours to new families, work on service projects, and a myriad of other actions. Here we have a picture of students that are preparing for the morning announcements, and then part of our welcoming team with the PED-B walk to school costume, which I wore one year and said after that, this is a great project for 5th grade leadership. We believe highlighting leadership builds confidence and a sense of community that is so important for students. I'm going to turn it back over to Heather.
An important part of our equity journey is a focus on self-reflection. This is the first year we've had a school-based equity team, and we've engaged in dialogue about racism, white privilege, and examining our own implicit bias. This spring, we will view a film, Black Girls in Suburbia, to help us better understand the unique challenges of these students and how to respond effectively. Under the guidance of our librarian, our teachers are making sure that every student see themselves reflected in their classroom. We also have some great traditions that we keep because they celebrate our diversity. Multicultural Night is a Lakeview favorite because it creates a venue to move us closer as a community, embracing surface cultural understanding and opening ourselves to greater connections. It sends a message to every family that they are valued. Traditional dress and food is part of the celebration. Lakeview is also a musical school. We build understanding, broaden perspectives, and create bonds through music. We know we are making connections with our families when we receive comments like this, and I quote, "The Martin Luther King Assembly was fabulous. It always gives me so much hope and optimism for our future. What a beautiful message to give our kids at Lakeview." Lakeview is stronger because of our partnerships with community, parents, and our PTSA. Local businesses, including PCC and Met Market, contribute to our nutrition program. And volunteers make a big difference at Lakeview, finding a myriad of ways to support every learner. Parents tutor small groups in math and reading and join students for lunch and recess. Our PTSA supports all students with an emphasis on eliminating our achievement gap by providing stipends for the before-school math instruction and providing scholarships to ensure that every student can participate in all school activities and enrichment classes outside of the school day. Because we recognize the positive impact of our PTSA, every staff member, classified and certificated, are members of our PTSA. This picture was taken just last week at the grand opening of our digging garden. It represents the commitment of our PTSA as we transition to a playground with improved sight lines, improved safety features, and improved ADA access. Our PTSA steps forward to lead the way. Lakeview is a remarkable school and community. Thank you for this opportunity to share.
Thank you very much. Absolutely fabulous to hear that. Any questions or follow-up? I was going to say, I thought I saw people taking notes, so I'm going to check. Director Sage?
I would just like to say that it might not have been the same picture for Walk to School Day, but there was a PED-B costume, and I do have a picture of Trent in 1980 gear, bright pink headband, walking to school safely, definitely not going to be hit by a car. Impressive.
I just, sorry, as my home school, it's nice to see everyone and nice to know that the teachers are growing up with us. I've added a few gray hairs, and I noticed that perhaps Mr. Coulter has too. But it's always nice to see him back in the library. Anyway, I have to admit, as I'm watching it, I'm like, where the heck did I couldn't figure out where you had that sandbox. I was really disturbed. How did they get a sandbox? And then it occurred to me, maybe it's new. So thank you for letting me know that. You know, I was in major suspense.
All right, well, thank you very much. It was fabulous to hear all the information about the equity work that's going on. There seems to be a great focus, so appreciate you really providing some of that and giving us a good picture of the school and what's going on. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
All right, so our next item on the agenda tonight are proclamations, and we do have 4 of those this evening. And so I am going to ask each board member to please provide the introduction and go ahead and read the proclamation. So Cassandra, if you could start with Teacher Appreciation Week.
I will, and I would like to say, having chaired this committee for PTA for almost 2 decades, that this is very near and dear to my heart. So, whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education and keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and whereas teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds and our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and whereas Lake Washington School District teachers work to create learning environments that support the district's guiding principles of connection, value, and challenge, and whereas the teachers in Lake Washington School District deserve recognition for their hard work to keep students achieving the district's vision of every student future ready, therefore, we, the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim Teacher Appreciation Week as May 6th through 10th and National Teacher Day as Tuesday, May 7th, 2019.
All right, thank you very much. And so next, Director Carlson.
Okay, as the father of 3 sons who were frequent flyers in the nurses' room, have a tremendous appreciation of and am very thankful for the nurses in our district. So I also hate to bore people. So, whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas all students have the right to have their health needs safely met while in the school setting, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day, and whereas school nurses have served a critical role in improving public health and in ensuring student academic success for more than 100 years, and whereas school nurses are professional nurses who advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children. Therefore, we, the members of the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 8th, 2019 as School Nurse Day in Lake Washington School District. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Stewart, please.
I'm not even going to try and follow that act of John Barrymore, or Drew Barrymore for that matter. I am doing School Nutrition Employee Week. I was always amazed at the level of choices that kids had as I worked with my son at the various middle school and high school. It was heads and shoulders above where ours was. I was always trying to figure out what the mystery meat was when I was in high school. But whereas nutritious meals at school are an essential part of the school day, and whereas the staff members who prepare and serve school meals help nurture our children through their daily interaction and support, and whereas the staff of the district's Nutrition Services Department are committed to providing healthful, nutritious meals to the district's children, and whereas Lake Washington School District has partnered with Sodexo to provide students with nutritious meal options for more than 35 years, therefore we, the members of the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim the week of May 6th through 10, 2019, as School Nutrition Employee Week. These folks are fantastic. The way they work with kids, and to be quite frank, it's not a very thankful job usually working over a steam table. Trust me, I've been there. But they do a great job.
All right, thank you very much. And our last one this evening is a proclamation for the Arts in Education Month. I have had the pleasure, with my kids being actively involved in the performing arts, music, as well as drama for many, many years. And then we have the digital arts as well as the visual arts and lots of things within our schools. So this is great that we are highlighting this important component of the education our kids receive. So whereas the arts, including dance, music, theater, and visual arts, are defined as a core subject in Washington State's definition of basic education and considered an essential component of the complete and balanced education for all students, and whereas learning in and through the arts enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination and creativity, discipline, alternative ways to communicate and express feelings and ideas, and cross-cultural understanding which supports academic success across the curriculum, as well as personal growth outside the classroom. And whereas imagination and creativity are increasingly understood as critical capacities needed for success in the 21st century workforce, and whereas the arts can transform our schools into havens of creativity and exploration, places where students want to learn, teachers want to teach, and all members of the learning community are more engaged and motivated. And therefore, we, the members of the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Arts in Education Month in Lake Washington School District. So thank you very much, and if you have the opportunity, make sure to catch a musical, a play, a performance sometime in the next few months, because there'll be several happening in all our schools. And so with that, those are our proclamations for this evening. And I would like to move on to public comment. We currently have one individual signed up, and just really quickly, monthly we provide the opportunity for public comment during board meetings, and it's a time reserved during our working meeting for the board to hear from the public. You can also feel free, you could email us, you could call, you could write a letter even, it would eventually come to us. This is just one avenue that's available in which to have communication with the board. So we do allow up to 30 minutes. We allow 3 minutes per speaker, and we do a red, yellow, green. Since we only have one person this evening, I will go ahead and call the name, and you can just approach the podium and introduce yourself and the school you're from. So, Magnus Unger.
Good evening, Board of Directors and Dr. Stavim. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I'm Magnus Unger, and I'm a senior at Redmond High School. I'm the president of the Redmond High School Green Team, and I am passionate about climate action. The mission of Lake Washington School District reads, each student will graduate prepared to lead a rewarding, responsible life as a contributing member of our community and greater society. In most respects, I could not have asked for a more wonderful 13 years of education in this district. Thank you. But you haven't entirely succeeded in your mission, because most of the students in our district do not understand how much danger we are in. Scientists from the United Nations have given us just 11 years to prevent the worst effects of climate change. I'm so scared for my future that I have skipped school. On Friday, March 15th, I organized a walkout at Redmond High School inspired by the worldwide School Strikes for Climate to show our community that we need immediate climate action. In European cities, thousands of students skip school every Friday to strike outside their government buildings. Out of 2,000 students at my school, only 50 thought climate action was important enough to strike for. When asked to skip class to come to the strike, one student even said, "Why would I risk my future to go to some random protest?" This is where you have failed. We do learn about climate change in our science classes, but we treat it like an abstract topic with no severe consequences to our lives. The only class fully devoted to the environment is AP Environmental Science, and evidently, not many of the AP Environmental Science students thought climate change was a serious enough issue to strike for on March 15th. You need to mandate climate change education in all classes. Why aren't the humanitarian effects of climate change a discussion point in social studies classes or an essay topic in English classes? Furthermore, classes should be required to address climate change in a solid unit, not just for 2 days in one class in a student's entire high school career. My own school administration claims to care about sustainability, yet they refuse to educate students about proper recycling practices. We don't even have a cafeteria composting system. Decisions about recycling and composting shouldn't be made by individual school administrations and custodians. Recycling and composting should be mandated across the district. These changes need to happen next school year, this September. You're going to say that changes in curriculum can't happen that quickly, that the paperwork and the bureaucracy wouldn't allow it. I say that my generation has only 11 years to protect our future. You might worry about scaring students with this information. We need to be scared. Until you start taking initiative and teaching your students about the irreversible effects of climate change, you are not preparing us for our future like you are supposed to. College readiness and career advising, none of this matters if our planet cannot support us anymore. I offer to help you put together a plan this summer to address sustainability and climate change in the school district, including practices that every district facility and school should follow and guidelines for student curriculum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're actually going to take that. Actually, I should first ask, is there anybody else who would like public comment who did not sign up? If you just come forward, state your name and your school area for the record, that would be great.
So, hi, Board of Directors and Dr. Stavum. My name is Jenna Guan, and I'm a junior at Eastlake High School, and I've been a student in the district since kindergarten, and I believe strongly in the importance of student input and engagement, improving the district's policies and practices and in students' experiences. Recently, as an effect of my passion for education and government, I've gotten involved with political advocacy within our community. Currently, I serve as the Director of Public Relations for the Washington State Legislative Youth Advisory Council, which is a statewide advisory council to the Washington State Legislature that aims to represent all youth within our state government. Through that council, I help communicate with the state legislature and plan events to engage young people throughout the state. And my involvement with LIAC has helped me realize what a large impact getting involved in the processes and practices of government has on youth, including through advocating to determine the courses of their education paths. They can learn more about the way their schools function and learn about politics in the process. I also believe that youth getting involved in systems such as government helps improve the systems such as government themselves. Recently, I attended a board meeting. Actually, I think this was a couple months ago, back in September, and I think many concerns that were raised by the board could be answered easily by students. For example, I think the meeting was about something like such as STEM education. One of the board members asked about whether students had any clubs that addressed sort of the issues that the board was talking about. That answer could be really easily derived from me or another student who attends a school within the district. That is why I believe that the school board, similar to what surrounding school districts like the Issaquah and Kent school districts have, should have a youth advisory board comprised of students from all around the district. This will not only help the students themselves learn about the process, about how their school functions, how the school board functions, and how the district functions, but it will also help the board make more informed decisions to best support its students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you both taking the time to come out this evening. At this point, we will take a 5-minute recess. If you have some questions, if you'd like to follow up with anything, you'll have the chance to step down and do that. And we will be back at 7, how about 7:50? I'll give you 8 minutes. All right?
Okay, that's okay. You control it. You'll turn it back on? Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Testing. Testing. Is it on? Is that on? Could you hear that? Testing. I know, but you can't hear very loud. I'm gonna have to lean over like that. Okay, good.
All right, well, thank you. And before you both leave, thank you very much for coming and speaking and being willing to speak your voice here so that we could hear it directly and be able to respond. So thank you very much for taking that time. So from there, we will now move on to our consent agenda. So I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved by Director Sage and seconded by Director Carlson. Dr. Stavum, will you poll the board?
Siri?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Cassandra?
Yes.
And Dr. Stavum, could you please review the donations as well?
I would be happy to. This month, we have from the Lake Washington Schools Foundation an amount of $5,154. From our Lake Washington PTSA, the amount of $90,000, $90,782.24. And donations from private sources in the amount of $19,901.18 for the grand total of $115,000. Sorry, let me try that again. $115,837.42. An amazing, generous donation by so many people.
Absolutely, and thank you to everyone who's chosen to support our students and schools. That's great. So now we move on to our non-consent agenda, which we actually don't have anything on that agenda item, so we're going to move to program reports. We have 2 this evening, and we have somebody already lined up ready to go, but Dr. Stavum will go ahead and do the introduction.
We do have somebody. That somebody is Mindy Mallon, our Associate Director for Teaching and Learning with Integrated Technology, and she's going to give us an update on the many different ways that we have instruction supported by technology, and I think that's an important distinction. Is it good instruction is good instruction, and we use technology to support that and to make it even richer. So Mindy, go ahead.
Great. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm excited to be here to talk to you a little bit more about information communication technology. We find information communication technology within our ends and means under content knowledge and interdisciplinary skills and attributes. Outlined in our student profile, the core competencies include that students will demonstrate information communication and media literacy, that they will understand the relationships of technology to productivity and quality of life, and they will present information for a variety of audiences and purposes using a range of technology tools. So the Lake Washington School District Technology Framework outlines what it is that we're working to accomplish with our students, and that is comprised by the standards. There are new technology standards as of spring 2018, our proficiency skills and the technology skills continuum, which outlines the foundational skills that lead students to accomplish the technology standards. The Washington Educational Learning Standards have changed pretty significantly since they originated, and now what we're really looking at is a learner-driven process, and so we're really focusing on exploration, creativity, discovery, and then using technology for learning. So our goals are that we amplify and transform learning and teaching in all content areas, and that we truly prepare students for careers, post-secondary aspirations, and beyond. So all of this really provides the why that technology should be integrated within teaching and learning. I wanted to talk to you just briefly about the new standards. What they call for in terms of students being literate and fluent in these areas. There are 7 core standards: becoming a digital citizen, a knowledge constructor, an innovative designer, computational thinker, creative communicator, global collaborator, and empowered learner. So you can see these standards are very different in terms of what it is that we're expecting from our students. I wanted to just outline briefly for you a couple of these standards. So if we're talking about an innovative designer, then we're asking our students to use a variety of technologies within the design process to identify and solve problems by creating new, useful, or imaginative solutions. So if we're looking at a 3rd through 5th grade student, students might be planning and implementing a design process where they identify a problem, think about ways to solve the problem, develop solutions, test, evaluate, and doing all of that within different digital resources to work through the problem, construct the solution, as well as present. When we're talking about computational thinking or thinker, students develop and employ strategies for understanding and solving problems that leverage technological methods to develop and test solutions. So if we're talking about a student at the kindergarten through second grade level, students would be expected to be able to use an interactive panel to sort and categorize various items or objects to support learning in the classroom. And we're actually going to show you some of that a little bit later. As a global collaborator, we want students to use digital tools to broaden their perspectives and enrich their learning by collaborating with others and working effectively in teams both locally and globally. So if we're talking about a 9th through 12th grade student, that student might be project planning, and the planning would include culturally responsive exploration, such as reporting on different cultures, uses of technology. So those are just a few examples. So what does information communication technology look like in our schools? So technology is integrated across all content areas. We talked a little bit about our guiding documents and what guides the work. As a district, we provide a full range of instructional resources, digital resources to our teachers and to our students. And so our Office suite is one. We have our Power School Learning, which is our learning management system, EduTyping, which is one of those foundational skills, so many different resources. We also provide those foundational resources like our hardware. So we have our laptops that are distributed at different ratios at the elementary level. Very exciting as we move into next school year. We will be one-to-one at the 5th grade level, and we're piloting the Surface Go, which is an amazing device. And just in the very short time that we've been piloting with our 4 schools, the teachers and students are very excited about what they're seeing and the level of engagement they're seeing with students. So that is very exciting. I also wanted to mention the smart interactive panels. We have 21 of our elementary schools that are under full implementation, and that is creating another significant change in our instructional practice and level of engagement. This little picture here calls out Dreambox Learning at the kindergarten level, where kids are working on that independently. And Heather did a great job of describing to you what Dreambox Learning was, so I won't go into detail on that. At the middle school level, the biggest difference is students are one-to-one. It's integrated within the core content areas, but we're also providing electives for students. The laptops are provided or downloaded with software to support work with students, so again, a range of instructional resources. And at the secondary level, we will be starting Smartboard implementation next school year, about mid-year. At the middle school level, in terms of the electives that we offer a full range of electives, and this really is to kind of broaden kids' horizons, try to expand their interest and really develop potential in our students. At the high school level, very similar, and when we talk about our electives at this point, we're really thinking about helping kids have exposure that's going to help them on the other end in terms of building skills for the workforce. So lots of different unique opportunities that are offered for our students. So how do we support information communication technology? We offer a continuum of support. We have our TIF program, or our Technology Integration Facilitators, which is a train-the-trainer model. We have professional learning, which is provided in a variety of different ways. It could be a professional learning class, it could be a tech workshop, it could be a cohort that we develop with our teachers, it could be training specific to tools, so lots of different ways, and we also provide training through some of the field tests that we engage in. Our knowledge base for integrating technology, or KIT, which some of you might be aware of, that's on our learning management system, our Power School Learning. And so this is a hub of resources for our teachers. It's all tutorial resources and instructional strategies related to all of our hardware and software. So it just walks teachers through if they need support on using a particular tool. As the new smartboards come in, we've added resources. As the mobile teaching devices came in, we're adding all of those informational tools for our teachers so that they can go in anytime, any place. I want to talk a little bit more about our TIF program. So our TIF program is designed to really support our teacher leaders that are out there in the building doing professional learning. So they come in once a month. We provide support for them in professional learning. We have focused this year on pedagogy and leveraging technology to enhance teaching and learning. So really what we're focusing on is having our teachers determine what are the outcomes that they're striving for, and then they determine what technology best meets that outcome. That is also something that we're striving for our students. We want students to develop the skills and understanding so that they have the self-efficacy to determine what are the tools that will best match what they are working to accomplish or what they're presenting. So applies to both. Just a little bit more, we have 4 technology integration specialists on my team who are teachers on special assignments. We are currently supporting 74 teacher leaders out in the field that are TIF. We collect data on a regular basis from our teachers out in the field to determine if the training that we're engaging them in is making a difference. So this is just one particular question. In August, we had over 1,000 of our teachers respond to the survey, and one question we asked them based on the training we provided last year is, how has the Surface Book impacted your professional work or instruction with students? And so there were many strengths that came out of that in terms of things they're feeling much better about, and we also identified some areas for growth, digital inking and teaching beyond the classroom walls. So what we did, we took that and then we include that in our professional learning so that we identify a need, and then we include that in our TIF program training and professional services. Yeah. Oh, sure. Digital inking is when, so teachers have the ability to digital ink because with their Surface Books, they have a pen that allows them to write and interact in different software on the device. So it could be that they're projecting. It is also something that if a teacher was working in OneNote, they might be, and they are providing access to their students through OneNote, that a teacher and a student could communicate back and forth. So a student may submit something and the teacher could do a written response digitally, which then goes immediately back to the student device. So it provides ongoing feedback. That's one of the greatest values we see instructionally. It's also a tool now that students have access to. And so particularly like in our 5th grade pilot, we're really working with teaching kids how to apply digital inking to learning. And it's a whole new way of thinking about how kids engage. So for students, they can also respond in the moment. What we find is our students adapt to it very quickly. We do know that physically writing does have an impact on kids' ability to retain information. So there are many touch points in different tools, and the digital pen allows us to engage with that software in a very different way. Okay, so moving on to professional learning. As I mentioned, we provide professional learning in a variety of formats. It could be in person, it could be online, it could be a webinar, it could be a cohort. My team was responsible this year for supporting and providing 86 smart building trainings. That's related to our smart interactive panels and smart software. 35 Dreambox trainings, which was a tool that was put out this year to all elementary schools. And then, as I mentioned, 56 of those optional classes in which we had 852 participants. So some of those classes that we offer a full range. So to date this year, 56, there will be more. We have a whole nother time block that we have classes scheduled, but there's that digital inking in the classroom, mobile teaching and STEM cohorts, smart notebooks, so lots and lots of classes that are offered based on what teachers are talking to us about. You know, introduction to Clicker 7, which is an accessibility tool, so really trying to meet the needs of all of our learners. Just to give you a visual of what KIT looks like, it's an asynchronous learning environment that facilitates information sharing outside the constraints of time and place. It's interesting to note that last year at this time, we had about a little over 1,000 hours of use. This year at this time, we have more than double that, 2,368 hours. And some of that is attributed to the fact that with mobile teaching and with smart panels, teachers are referring to information in KIT to learn more about those pieces of hardware that support technology. We don't want to forget about our parents. Our parents are partners for us in the work, and so we want to provide resources for them as well so that they can work alongside their children and support the use of technology within teaching and learning. So we have different documents and guidelines on our webpage for parents. We are very fortunate to work in a school district where, excuse me, our community funds our levies, which turns around and allows us to buy some phenomenal hardware and instructional software. So I want to end with a short video. It's only a minute and 45 seconds that really demonstrates how technology is being used to leverage information communication technology. So let me see if we can get this going. Okay, where's our volume? Okay, so I can try another way to do this. I had this set up so we could go different routes if it didn't work. Oh, she did? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. So, it did, but it didn't do anything, so maybe I'm doing it wrong. Left click? No. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, thank you very much. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Come on. And when I'm standing up here, I'm getting nervous, right?
So you're telling me if you add those digits, it doesn't equal the same as the rest?
I love the board. The Smart Panel is honestly really awesome, but I love it. I love the touch component. I love that the kids can write with pens, but they can also write with their fingers.
The Smartboard has really changed a lot of what I do in the classroom. It's really transformed learning for kids. Which property cannot be used? Really engaging. It's really created kind of a whole new realm of what we can do, what's possible in the classroom. One of the coolest things is that the kids can connect to the board. They can be on their devices, they can send ideas and thoughts right to the board and appear right before their eyes as they're doing it. Then other kids can come up and sort and move them and group them, and we can have more interactive discussions.
Now we can have 3, 4, 5, and it can be a small group station, it can be a whole group activity. It works wonderful with our new Surface books.
The kids really can interact with it just as much as the teacher does. They're not having to press any extra buttons to do it. They're able to just pick up a pen and start writing. They're able to use their finger as a pen. They're able to just manipulate things as easily as an adult would.
It gets the kids excited and involved, and they actually want to participate.
It's just nice that at this point, you know, it's so clear, it's so easy to use. I couldn't imagine teaching without it at this point.
The changes we are seeing are very exciting. I think one of the things that we are most excited about is that this becomes a resource in the classroom for not only the teacher, but for students. So it really becomes a learning station. It becomes a place where students are demonstrating, they're building, they're creating. And so we really want to reinforce that this is a tool for both students and teachers, that it is not just for the delivery of instruction. So it truly allows this to happen, and it's something we are very, very excited about and think it's going to really change our classrooms what's the word I'm looking for? Considerably, thank you. Any questions that I might answer for you?
Director Sage?
I just have a question. What is happening with the Surface Book cameras? What kind of work?
So tell me more about what your question is.
There was a reference to Surface Book cameras and using Surface Book cameras. I don't know what that is, so this is
okay,
an
sure.
question.
So on the teacher laptop device, the Surface Book, there's a camera. So with the camera can be used to enhance instruction as well. So for example, you know, where it used to be that kids would take something that they worked on and they might take it up to the board. So a teacher can walk around the classroom, they can actually hover the camera over student work and it displays up on the board. So that's one way. You could use the camera that maybe a student is recording something. It could be a book, you know, something they're presenting on a book, or a way that they're solving a math problem, and they could video a 1-minute video or less, and that could be dropped into a OneNote that the teacher could look at later, or so a student could do it. So a teacher, that's how a teacher's going to go evaluate something that they're doing, or possibly a teacher would do the same thing and explain something to a student. So it allows that type of interaction, which again takes it beyond, when you don't have maybe the time in the classroom, but personalizes it more. So those are just a couple of ways. Yeah.
Director Stewart?
In the devices that you're looking at, they seem to be basically across the board for all students. Do you have any devices that you're looking at or you're working with to enhance inclusion?
Yes, well, so we have several accessibility tools that we're working on, and many of the tools within our Office suite have accessibility tools, and that is something that we've been working on this year. And really, our next step is we're training all of our TOSAs so that we're modeling the use of accessibility tools when we're engaging with all teachers, when we're training with them, and that we're continuing to bring that up. It's something that we provide for our teachers in terms of our TIF program, that we train them, we teach them about different tools that allow inclusion to happen. We think that there are many ways that all kids will positively be impacted when we're talking about inclusion with the types of tools like Clicker 7, Read Write, the learning tools within the Microsoft suite, but also even looking at the one-to-one devices, let's say at 5th grade. There are several special education students who got a special device because they needed touch. Well, now all students have access to touch on these new devices. So we're really trying to think about all kids when we're purchasing new hardware and software. So it's that equity piece.
Well, no, specifically I was thinking about speech generation devices.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
Speech generating devices that will allow the child to type and basically the words come out. So if they are nonverbal, but yet they have the processing ability to do it on a screen, it enhances their ability to learn and interact in the classroom where they might be isolated otherwise.
Right. So Clicker 7 has some of those features for the younger students, and for students who really require, like, that's not something that all kids require, we have our assistive technology specialists who also are searching for specific tools to help students who have that specific need. So we have different ways that we go about approaching it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with a lot of the speech-generating devices.
Are you?
And they're they enhance the student's ability to participate.
Sure.
And you take a nonverbal student and make him or her into a verbal student.
Sure.
And if you give a child early on a communications system, he or she is not a behavioral student in high school. And it saves about for every $1 spent in elementary, it saves $7 in high school.
Yeah, that's a good point. Something for us to continually consider. Yeah, any other comments?
I believe so.
I just
Director
had one
Carlson?
thing I wanted her to point out. I know we had one teacher in the video who was a certified SMART trained teacher. How many teachers do we have that have that certification?
Right now, we have just a handful of them. Unfortunately, we had a couple of teachers move away last year, but that's something that we're working on promoting with our teachers to become SMART certified, as well as what we call Microsoft Innovative Educators. So we're really trying to promote that with our teachers so that they can help us lead the work across the district. We do have some people who are just doing a phenomenal job, and we want them to help support that work.
Thank you. Okay, Director.
I'll do one and then you do one because I don't want to take all the good ones.
Wait. Is there a limit to these questions?
Sorry, you just have to stand there and keep answering.
Yeah. There's one thing I could appreciate some clarification on. Is this about instructional technology or is this about technology? And is there a line between who's responsible for what? Because when I see you have AP Comp Sci up there, that's tech, that's not instructional tech.
Right.
And so I'm curious about where that falls in your domains.
So I think you have a combination of both, right? So it's, if we think about kids from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, we have technology that's embedded within instruction. That's how we do things in this day and age. We also have the responsibility to be teaching kids about how to use technology and to kind of think about all those different ways that kids learn that are called out in the standards. And so I think that is a combination of efforts. It's a combination of the work that I'm doing. It's a combination of the work that Jen's doing. It's a combination of the work that Dr. Pierce is doing. And we're continually looking to expand that. So what you're talking about are specific skills within a class that are kind of a very centered focus, whereas a lot of what we were talking about here had to do with developing kind of across the board overall skills for kids, and instruction is definitely a part of that.
And so digging into that a little more deeply, if you could just flip back to slide 9, computational thinking.
Yes.
is a very interesting concept to me. But when I read the bullets under that, that's not what I would have defined computational thinking as. So tell me what's going on here.
So computational thinking, this is not defined by me. This is defined by ISTE. And so ISTE calls out what it is that computational fluency includes, and it starts at a very young age and looks different as we progress through. So computational fluency is something that it's ordering. It's not just mathematical, but it's looking at how we order things and how things are constructed and being able to problem solve. So at a very young age, giving kids things that they have to grapple with to try to solve, so that we're not just always giving them the answer. And it's not just numbers. It might be a path that has to be created with certain obstacles. And so there's lots of different ways to think about it, but we use the guidelines of what ISTE has provided for us. These are national standards, and they're an international.
Because what I'm struggling with is, would it fall under something between the elementary, middle, and high school levels on slides 19, 21, and 23? 18. Anyway, my point. At the high school level, we had an example of AP Comp Science.
Sure.
At the middle school level, we had game design and programming. Again, those are programming tools, technically, and very computational thinking. It's learning to speak a language about how you achieve an outcome, which fits well with that. But I didn't see anything like Scratch at elementary school, which, sorry, where's Scratch? Or what's the equivalent of Scratch that I missed?
So this is one of Jen's charges next year as she moves forward. We have a computer science specialist who will be assisting in moving this work forward. And we look at different things. We've been looking at computer science and coding at the elementary level, and really looking at like, where does that fit in? And so it fits in a couple of different areas, math and science. And we actually have looked at Scratch. And we know that there are some schools that are using that as after-school programs, but there are some privacy issues with Scratch. And so we've actually been working with the company to try to get them to create a different type of environment that allows our kids to be safe. So that's one of the complexities of engaging in these types of activities at the very young age, is that oftentimes the products that are out there do not meet student privacy and protection laws. So it's a project, and you are on the right track that we need to be focusing on this, and really this is Jen's work as she's moving forward next year.
And the last piece of this thread. I have never seen that nanobot that Heather showed. That is computational thinking by definition. I mean, they were programming that sucker, move X units forward, turn, and I would love to know what that thing is, and know if we're piloting it in any formal sense.
I believe it was an Ozbot.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll see if we can get you one for Christmas.
Oh no, I've got plenty of
stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good point. One of the things that we want to do is have a more comprehensive strand of computer science and coding that runs K through 12. And Mindy is correct, and we know that we have different versions of that, but we haven't specifically called out that in curriculum and as a purposeful part of our programming. And so that's one of the benefits of having that computer science curriculum specialist that they'll begin building out. But we also know that we are kind of moving along from a point where it was if school wasn't offering that, kids weren't doing it, and we know now that kids are starting to code because they love it and because there are a lot of different ways to do it. So then it's, how do you marry those things up? Code.org is another organization that we want to be partnering with a little bit more purposefully to make sure that that coding piece is in place, and they're a great partner for that as we kind of launch some of those things. But we have some really awesome coders that I have seen, and so it is happening. We just want it to be a little more purposeful.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions, Director Carlson?
I've got another, but you go first.
No, I'm willing to just let you finish it up. Go ahead.
Come on, okay. Because the other side is entirely not about that. For that side, the computational thinking, I'm just worried about computer science winding up in a no man's land between instructional technology and technology. Oh, it's their problem. I want to make sure it's somebody's problem, and that would make me happy. But can you tell me more about KIT? Because that looks like it's a way to share lesson plans between teachers and share technology.
It could be,
okay.
yes. So KIT is, it's basically, it's several different resources, courses that we use within our current learning management system. Can you be more specific? Because KIT is really big.
Well, that's all right. I mean, is this a way that teachers, great teachers develop lesson plans, even better teachers share lesson plans with each other?
Yes.
And so if you've got someone who's come up with something good, is this a mechanism by which they propagate that?
Some teachers do use it in that way. So we have, you know, as you may be aware, we have schools in different feeder areas that meet together, and so grade level teams will create it's called a class in KIT that they then share resources with one another. It's actually, that's a very common way that teachers are using classes in Power School Learning, is to share resources and lessons and all kinds. They share everything. It really truly has become that. And you find that, like Quest does that. There's many, many groups who do that.
Great,
different
thank you.
departments. Yeah.
So as you can tell, this is a hot topic with lots of questions around it. I would actually like to propose that we consider that possibly into the work plan for next year, that maybe we look at doing a study session, a little more in-depth time around, because I think this was a lot of really new and, actually it was a much more comprehensive set of information, I think, than we've had in regards to a lot of this information. The ISTE and those standards that you put forward, and also the exploration, creativity, discovery, technology, those are great ways at sort of structuring how technology can be used, and so that would be beneficial, I think, for us to have a better grasp sort of that whole concept. So I guess I would put that forward as something, so we won't have to pepper you with questions this evening, but we can hold those for a period and be able to pursue some of those, because it was great, very rich, and a lot of really good information. And I think it's exciting to see what's happening and the structure that's going into it. And so now we just sort of want to, I mean, I would love to go see what's happening in the classroom and just see some of this. My other question was, is there a way to build some of this into our board meetings so that we also can learn what is digital inking? Is that something we could try and do at some point in time, so we as well can start to see what our kids are learning within the classes?
We'll bring in some of those Surface Goes with
exactly.
digital inking.
So just sort of get that whole idea. So I guess those are some of the great things of what you see happening here. So thank you. Director Stewart?
One last question, I'm sorry. The surface cams that Sandra's asking about, can they be used almost, if you will, over the shoulder?
Sure.
So that whether it's the chemistry instructor or the cooking instructor, so the kids don't have to glom around the person.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay. Are we starting to do that with that? Okay, great.
We definitely are. That's something that was illustrated when we first brought in the devices, and we definitely are seeing teachers use it in that way.
I can see it also benefiting the students, especially special needs students that need visual supports.
Yes.
There's currently no visual supports that are available for teaching kitchen safety in the classrooms.
Yeah.
And this, I could see that we're working really well.
Yeah.
Especially if they didn't ink the thing where it's a no-no.
Yes, these are all the creative ways we want everybody thinking about the use of our tools. So. Great, yeah.
And I just want to clarify, ISTE stands for the International Society for Technology in Education. I had to make sure I got that. Really, it's the national world leader for really being on the cutting edge of great technology standards that guide then the work that is part of your curriculum in a school district. And I thought it was also interesting that ISTE's website has a map, and Washington State is among one of the earlier adopters of the newer version of the ISTE standard, so that's good to see, because those get woven right in their most current form, so that's good to know too. We have a lot of people who go to a yearly conference. Many districts send people. That's kind of where you see the latest and greatest of what's happening in school district, and it's a great way to collaborate with a national network of people who believe strongly in the power of technology in instruction.
Thank you. One last thing that I'd like is, with some of the standards and things, I think it'd be useful, at least I would like it, as we do our policy review, especially on April 29th, to have some idea, this sort of an ends results, the student profile. What are some of those things from the technology side that we're looking at? as sort of key things and outcomes. It might be beneficial if we can just have the list of what those are from ISTE as just sort of a reference piece to work from.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to continue into STEM at this point in time, and so we will continue from there, and I will let Dr. Stephen McGinn make those introductions.
Yes, Mr. Montebianco is going to follow this very connected with STEM, of course, with teaching and learning, and just goes a little bit more in depth with some of our specific initiatives related to STEM, and Dr. Jen Rose is going to join him in that update.
Loading up for you here. And hopefully this is sort of a complimentary presentation from what you've seen this evening and what you've even heard from some of our student speakers that spoke to this evening. In getting this ready and prepared for you, we wanted to change it up a little bit from last year and kind of give you two pieces to this. And so the two parts that we're going to emphasize is STEM in our K-12 academic program, and it's not to isolate it from STEM and career and technical ed, but it's to show the complement and how the two work together. The last time, we didn't focus as much on STEM inside of CTE. We do have a CTE career and technical ed presentation that's coming up later in the spring. There's so much content there that we're just going to focus on the STEM aspects of CTE tonight, and then we won't repeat that when we have our other broader CTE presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rose, who's going to take us through the first part.
So Mindy and I just had a side conversation to say that next time the three of us will present together, we'll be more combined, because really when we're thinking about STEM, we're thinking about STEM literacy as defined by OSPI, which is the ability to identify, apply, and integrate concepts from science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to understand complex problems and innovate to solve them. STEM literacy is achieved when a student is able to apply his or her understanding of how the world works within and across the 4 interrelated STEM disciplines to improve the social, economic, and environmental conditions of their local and global community. I promise that's the only slide I'm going to read, but I think this is really important because STEM literacy is really about the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts. And so as we heard Mindy talk about technology, as we think about the different aspects of STEM, we're really thinking about how are students making sense of all these different pieces, and how are they taking things like the new technology standards, which have many overlaps with the new science standards, with the mathematical practices, all of those pieces where we think STEM literacy is about students being able to have these experiences, and that each and every student, thinking about, Director Carlson, thinking about your comments about computational thinking and how each and every student has access to feeling really competent in STEM aspects, and really having that real world accountability. So thinking about how students are presenting their work and having that deep connection to recognizing their future careers as part of STEM. So our current STEM efforts in the elementary school are primarily focused in the school day in science and math. So it's about 10 hours a week for all students. This year, as you know, we've spent the first half of the year, all elementary students worked out of the FOSS curriculum. And then in the second half of the year, we had just about two classrooms at every single school piloting the 2 different choices for our science curriculum. And we have a recommendation that we will make to you in the next few weeks. But it was a really exciting process to go through thinking about our new science curriculum and really thinking about with the curriculum how science and technology and engineering and math are all interrelated in the curriculum. For STEM at elementary, we have many supports for teachers. We have curriculum alignment guides, we have all the different pieces that you see there, and in addition, a tremendous amount of professional learning. So our focus this year in elementary was working with our adoption committee and with another group of teachers who engaged in deep learning to help the entire system, all of the elementary teachers, have a deeper experience with science in application and thinking about the next generation science standards and how those really support the idea of integrated learning. Our expanded STEM choice program at Meade is one example of increasing our thinking around STEM. The pictures up here are actually from the curriculum that we've recommended for adoption, and they're from the same unit. And what's really cool about it is thinking about the simulations that the students have access to, how they, with the experiments that they do and the modeling that they do, it's really related to thinking about these are things that exist in the real world, and they're thinking about solving real world problems from a variety of different ways. And the technology standards really come into play here because of the focus on critical thinking and the focus on applied knowledge. There are, at this point, quite a few additional before and after school opportunities for students at the elementary level. Most of these, the after school clubs and programs are supported by the PTSA. However, the Green Team program is running really well at so many of our elementary schools. And Dr. Stavum and I got to go out today to Sandburg and be part of a really wonderful award ceremony for Sandburg receiving an award, as well as our district for being a green district. So that's something that's been really building over the past few years. And again, with our student here tonight talking about sustainability efforts, thinking about how that continues to be something that we engage the passion of our students and help them see how these things are not just important, but how they have power in them as well. So lots of different ways that our schools engage in STEM. And actually, Lakeview is one of our leaders in terms of students engaging in Hour of Code and STEM family nights. So it's a nice correlation to have them here as well tonight. For middle school, STEM again is primarily in the content areas of math and science. These are the courses and the materials that our students engage in and that our teachers use. In addition to the resources that are up here and the materials provided, our middle school and high school science teachers have been working all of last year and this year collaboratively to develop common units and common lessons and store those on a OneNote. So we're doing exactly what we were just talking about in terms of our teachers coming together to identify effective practices and create resources for each other and engage in that professional learning with each other. And we're going to continue to expand that over this next year. Our math curriculum also focuses on, it's our new math curriculum, we implemented it last year. Each unit has a STEM focus to it. So teachers are able to have at the end of each unit or integrated into the unit, have students think about what's a real world problem that we have and how do you bring in math and additional STEM skills, technology, science, and engineering into thinking about how does the curriculum apply to real life. Our students, and this is going to be similar to the slide that Mindy showed, our students have great opportunities in middle school to take STEM electives. And they do cross over in terms of thinking about, is it technology, is it engineering, is it science? Our goal for them is that they see it all as valid, relevant, important learning, and that they know that they have many different options to meet their own interests. STEM in high school, again, we've got a really strong core pathway for our students. And again, especially with the expanded 7-period day, our students have access to all kinds of great courses in STEM. Our high school teachers, again, had that ambitious science teaching training, which is a research-based program out of the University of Washington. They also have that collaborative time where we engage partly in professional learning. This year it's been 4 different times over the year, and that's our plan for next year. Professional learning around thinking about high levels of effective implementation of effective science practices and creating resources that they share across the district so that we're continuing to build that alignment and the commonalities. And of course, integrating technology. Again, the high school biology curriculum, as well as the physics and the chemistry, have lots of simulations and lots of ways that students are able to engage in physical labs, and they're also able to do virtual labs. So they get to do all kinds of things that wouldn't be possible without that kind of integration. Again, there's a really rich elective program across the district. These are not offered at all schools, but every school has a really healthy offering of STEM electives, in addition to our STEM signature courses and programs. So our kids are able to engage in all different kinds of things that really help them see how all these pieces of science, technology, engineering, and math are connected to each other. So an important question is, how do we see our students performing in STEM? So this is a very dense graph of how our students are performing on AP pass rates in STEM-related topics. And you'll see with this that we have continued high levels of achievement in each of the AP courses. And what's really exciting, I think, is that if you look at the chart on the right, that we have continuous high achievement in AP and continued growth in AP classes. So more and more kids are taking on that challenge, and our achievement continues to stay really high, especially when you compare it with the state and with the national AP pass rates. Our students in Lake Washington, we have more and more of them accepting that kind of a challenge and still achieving at fantastic rates, so we're really excited about that. A really important part of STEM is thinking about how we partner with outside entities, how we have our teachers and our students connect with the outside world so that we're not operating inside of any kind of a silo. So we have a couple different, actually quite a few different partnerships. The Washington Alliance for Better Schools is an exciting one that continues to expand. There's 11 districts, Lake Washington being one of them, that are part of this alliance. And what they do is connect private industry and higher education and school districts in really hands-on practical ways. Like our teachers, a STEM externship used to be just focused on math and science, and this year they've expanded it so that we'll have a group in elementary science, elementary math, high school English language arts, and secondary math. And what that group does is have teachers come together and plan for outcomes that they want for their classes, plan for the kinds of lessons that they want to build. Then they spend almost 2 weeks over the summer working directly with an industry partner, seeing what it actually looks like to be in an industry and think about how they'll align the resources that they're building and the way they'll teach their classes with what they're seeing in the real world. With companies like Boeing and T-Mobile, that's been really powerful for teachers that have gone through it, and we continue to have larger numbers of teachers go through that program. They also had, last year, they had a wonderful program for counselors so that counselors can also see what that looks like to be actually in a company and what those, when we say 21st century skills and real world skills, to know what that means in a way that really resonates with them. And they support elementary STEM nights. So Trent was talking about some of that as well, but they have elementary STEM nights that through WOBS is really focused on our parents and our students that traditionally have not had high access to science. And so they focus on building community partnerships within that school and across schools so that those families, whole families, have a deeper experience with STEM. The effective practices in teaching science is something that we've been working on deeply for the past 2 years as we adopted the next generation science standards, because it's really clear with those standards that it's not just a set of, it's not having a set of materials that will help us understand how to teach well, but really that mindset of what are the effective research-based practices in teaching science and technology and math, but really with a focus on science. So over the past 2 years, this is just this year's numbers, but over the past 2 years, every single one of our secondary science teachers has been trained in ambitious science teaching effective practices. And this year we had 60 of our elementary teachers, which are the teachers that are leading the professional learning in their buildings. Those teachers were also trained. Been a great partnership that we continue to work with them as we think about our adoption. And in addition with that, POGLE, the process-oriented guided inquiry learning, is just another one of those research-based effective practices for how are we ensuring that that we have great teaching going with great resources. All of our high school science teachers and actually middle school teachers participated in collaboration and professional learning this past August. That was a wonderful experience. And we connect with and use resources from OSPI. So the Puget Sound Educational Service District has a program where it connects all the different specialists or the teachers on special assignments to each other across the region so that when Issaquah is piloting or learning something, or Bellevue is, we can go and work with their folks as well so that we're sharing that knowledge across the region as well. So those are many of the things that we're doing in STEM in our school day and our K-12 academic arena.
Thank you. All right, question, Director Stewart.
You mentioned partnerships in also, I understood that I would go with the math and so forth, the science ones. In ELA, can you give me, for instance?
In ELA, we actually have English language arts fellows as well with the local service district. So that's the partnership that we have for ELA. We're starting to build that out with the Washington Alliance for Better Schools. They've expanded to allow us to have ELA teachers as well in that program. So that's something that we're going to continue as well.
I didn't know perhaps you're partnering with the local media, the local newspapers, and is that what, I'm lost as to where you're going with that. I'm sorry. Are they partnering with local PR departments or newsrooms or whatever to learn things?
No, we have not done that yet.
Okay.
That's a great point.
For me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Director Carlson. No?
Okay. All right. Where do we start? Sorry, you're in my home turf, so I'm
Yeah.
very excited to hear about so many things that are going. First thing, I apologize, but I just wanted to make sure. So FOSS Science is the new recommendation?
No.
No.
FOSS Science is the science that we've had since 2004 that we are moving to. The science that is now at the IMC committee to review is Amplify Science.
Thank you, because when I saw a star next to FOSS Science, I was like, wait a minute, we've
No.
been there.
No,
Okay.
FOSS is what we're doing this year, and there's a little asterisk at the
all right.
bottom to say we're
Thank you
recommending
for
a new
clarifying
program
that for
to
me.
you.
All right, so, and not that I actually diss FOSS Science, they were very responsive, but I can imagine there's something better now. So one of the things in marching through STEM, the piece that I found myself yearning to hear and didn't was clubs. Where I know that we've got robotics clubs at a couple of our high schools, at several of our middle schools, that are actually competing. And it's something that dovetails with, if we've got robotics 1 and 2, should we have a robotics team? And shouldn't we have robotics teams at all of our comprehensives? Anyway, so that's something I'd like to learn a little bit more about. And I'll pause there.
Okay. So clubs are usually, they're generated by student interest at the schools. And I think you raise a great point of if we have these classes, what supports might schools need so that students are excited to be part of an after-school club? I think that's something that we haven't looked at in the past, but I think that's an important point to think of. How do we build on that foundation that's within the school day to think about those opportunities that are really rich after school?
Yeah, and
I think that factors in to some of the coherence that we're trying to add as well, and looking at some middle school opportunities even that feed up into that high school, but it's about that continuity of opportunity for students to be part of a robotics experience.
Which was going to be a follow-on question. Are we evaluating the VEXs and the FIRSTs as far as something that would work through that system, or is that something that we're not even to the point of evaluating programs? We're still trying to figure out what we're asking for as an opportunity.
I think some of those things have happened through clubs so heavily that part of it is to kind of see where kids are at and what would we want to pull into the regular school day, or if it is focusing a little bit more at that middle level, knowing that there's already some pretty robust robotics groups going at the high school, but I think there's room for growth.
Well, yeah, and just from personal experience, the robotics class paired with the robotics club is an awesome way to help a kid get a CTE out of the way when they're not thinking CTE. So it's a good way to hide the lima bean in a casserole. Anyway.
And that'll be part of what we think about next year with a computer science specialist and with that integration with our math and our science folks, to think about how we're going to really have students be thinking about robotics and computer science in elementary school, so that as they get into middle school, they're primed for something like that.
Okay.
And I want to just add one more plug for that, because one of the things that we've heard from students is just even the physical space that we need to do robotics. And so as we look at the future of our facilities and wanting to pull in some of those opportunities, is where can you construct them, where can you leave them set up, where can you compete, and really thinking about those types of spaces.
The playing field tends to be large, so having one playing field per district would be a whole lot better than one per high school. Anyway, but I'm glad you're on top of that. So next question, Comp Sci A and Comp Sci principals, are those offered at all of our high schools at this point?
I will double check that. I think they are. I think Comp Science A and Comp Science
The numbers looked like they probably were. I just wanted to double check, because that's a pair that I can imagine a family being really upset if their kid was at a school that didn't have them.
Right.
And I've got a couple of other comments on slides 19, 19 and a half, and 20 that I'm not going to give you in public because they're more feedback on there's a better way to show what I care about in that data.
Okay, thank you.
So remind me to talk to you after.
Okay.
Director Sage?
Just a quick question on the summer externs that teachers and counselors and some other staff can take. Is this part of their professional development that they keep their certifications current on? Do we pay them to go to these?
Part of our partnership with WOBS is that the teachers are actually paid to be part of that internship, be part of the externship. They get, this summer they'll get 101 STEM clock hours, and I think the stipend is $1,500 for that time.
Wow,
and
the partnership helps to pay for that.
Yes,
Wow.
and there's strong interest from the industry to build expertise of teachers who are able to really target the learning in the classroom towards
Right.
what students need. So there's a huge interest on the part of the folks who are there. So we met with the CEO of T-Mobile one time, who came in and talked with us about the pipelines that he is helping that schools create. There's also higher ed people there, so there's someone from the University of Washington. So it's trying to create that holistic sense of what teachers need to know in order to help students really understand what they need to know, so they come out ready for all kinds of careers.
Thank you.
Superintendents are actually attenders of the WOBS organization, not as the primary attenders, but linking up with the business leaders. And we hear from a variety of people. T-Mobile is one of them, the health industry, terribly short on nursing professionals. Boeing is another partner, all kinds of different industries. And one of the things that we've talked about is they have some great opportunities, and they are expanding those this summer to include more teachers, but how can we do that? And so as a district, we're also looking at how do we expand partnerships so that we can expose not just kids, but also teachers and adults to see those jobs that are out there, so that they begin to have that mindset when they're in classrooms delivering instruction. They're thinking about those opportunities that they've seen to connect kids with the right kinds of coursework or just opportunities and interests, and they can talk about it a little bit differently with the skills that they teach. So it's a great opportunity for our district. It just needs to get larger and larger over time for more people to be able to take part in it.
Connection to real life experience. Gotta love it.
Great. Okay. And part
No,
two.
I actually have one last question for
Yes.
you, sorry. And going through this and actually thinking of the presentation prior is the one thing as we think of technology and these things as we bring this in. And I remember this from the community engagement meeting that was brought up, and it was ethics around digital citizenship and ethics and
Yes.
those components. And as I go through this, I don't see that piece, but I do see the potential, especially in high
Right.
school, of really exploring some of those technology ethics around that, and that, you know, you can write about it, you can debate it, you can, so there's lots of, so
Right.
that'd be just the one thing I'd look to encourage, that we're somehow making sure that we're thinking about how that technology plays out into English, language arts, and social studies, and ethics is gonna be big. There's a lot of huge changes, artificial intelligence, capacity of what we can do with genetics, lots of things, and so being able to hold, being able to hold those discussions now is pretty phenomenal. So to be able to build that would be great. So I guess that would
I could
be
see
my one
playing
piece.
off of that too, the idea of being able to discern news source and information sources, so you know what's legit, what's, shall we say, less than legit.
We have a English language arts adoption that's in the first year, so we're just having the learning year for 6 through 12, and that is a huge interest of that committee, is having those elements of critical thinking, specifically to think about being consumers of information and then to be empowered citizens as well. Those are core skills.
That's awesome. So thank you very much for the presentation. As I said, you can tell everybody's very excited from what we're hearing. So thank you for all your work and putting it all together and starting to really build the program. So thank you.
Thanks, my pleasure.
And now with that, it is the superintendent's report. So Dr. Stephen.
I just think it is so fun to hear what's happening in our district and all of the connections, and we appreciate your engagement with all of that. And as part of some of the work that we've talked about tonight, we also have a big celebration today. Jen talked about it a little bit during her presentation. I think it was Jen, it was somebody who was up at the podium. But today, our district received a Green Ribbon District Award, which is a state-level award, which puts us now in the national running with other districts around our sustainability efforts, our green efforts, and all of the different things that we've done around our environmental and sustainability education. So while we have room to grow, we are also being recognized for many of the things that we are doing. And we got a very handsome plaque today and $1,000, and I will send you the information. Unfortunately, I don't remember the sponsor. Barbara, do you remember the sponsor? Is it on here? Oh, it is on the plaque. How handy is that? California Casualty, and we want to thank them for their support of that award. And then Sandberg and Discovery got a school-level award for their work. I think they've gotten it, I believe they said 5 years in a row now. They are a leader and have really stepped up as an entire school, and so the kids were very excited today. But I think it's just evidence that we continue to grow in all of the things that are very fitting on Earth Day today to notice, and how all of us can do simple things and we can do some major things collectively, and that our district has really paid attention to things as we've built new facilities and we look at natural lighting and the energy efficiencies that we've built into the backsides of our schools, but really what goes into making those great learning environments for our students. So I think it's great to recognize this award today on Earth Day and to recognize our school, and we'll see what happens at a national level. We might get an even bigger award. Tomorrow is Election Day. We want to remind people to vote. And that would be just a last-minute reminder because our deadline is tomorrow. That is my report.
All right, thank you. And so next is, okay, Director Carlson, do you have something you'd like to add? No. Oh, okay. So the next item on our report is a legislative update. We did actually just have a work session on that where we reviewed sort of where we're at in regards to our legislative priorities and different components. Is there anything anybody would like to add? We are in our last week of the legislature. Currently, it's set to end by Sunday. And there's lots of discussion occurring on budget and different bills. Anything else?
At home, if you have any qualms about what is going on down in Olympia regarding the budget and the impact it will have on your student, write your representative, write your state legislator, state senator, send an email, because right now they're working 16-plus-hour days and they're not taking phone calls too quickly, or they're not returning calls too quickly. So I think email is probably your best bet.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other board follow-up? Any future agenda items? How about any board member comments?
I just want to say thank you to the STEM team. I apologize if I was giving you a hard time, but I rather enjoyed it, so thank you.
I'd also like to, again, thank you for our students to have come this evening and do the public comments. I think we've talked about increasing student voice much more effectively in the upcoming year. So it's exciting to be able to see it's all fitting together and going forward. So this is just that next step as we move forward, and it's great to get their direct input around that. So with that, our next board meeting will be held on April 29th. It's a special board meeting at 8 a.m. study session. We'll be doing policy governance. And then on May 6th, we will have our next board meeting. 5 p.m. will be the study sessions. School start times will be the topic. And then 7 p.m. will be the board meeting that evening. And so with that, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Carlson and seconded by Director Sage that we adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.